YouTube, what's happening? It's Friday, June 14th. There are 15 games in baseball to talk about, but first, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't, because yesterday was another green day for us. 8-6, including the beautiful call of the White Sox money line. No one saw it coming, but the stats did, so we took it. Crochet struck out a million dudes yesterday. I'm telling you, he's not going to be a White Sox come the trade deadline. Someone's going to offer up a lot for him, and they should, because dude is a beast. Either way, 1.3 units back in the bankroll. For the week, 4.2 in the last 30, almost 60. We've almost hit that 60 number, so we are crushing it again. Subscribe if you're not, because if you're not, you clearly are missing out. You don't like money. What's wrong with you? We like money around here. So we got 15 games. Let's jump into that first one right now. All right, first game, we got St. Louis and Chicago in the day game today. We got Gibson with 3.76 against Wicks with a 4.44. Betting markets have the Cubs slightly favored at home. 7.5 the total with some juice on that over. Looking at the data, St. Louis 2-game win streak, Chicago 1-game losing streak. It's the 59.7 nerfy. Pass on that. Not good enough for us. 3.0 and 2.7 are the runs per game. Both teams were struggling to score runs. St. Louis is batting decently. 270 in the last 3 games for 6. Chicago 218. So we have a slight advantage for St. Louis just on batting. The runs are pretty much the same. Strikeout wise, 9.7 versus 9.0. They're both swinging and missing a lot. We are going to look at strikeout props to those pitchers. For St. Louis, Gibson's going out there with his 3.76 and his 1.27 whip. You can see he's going to pitch about right around 5 to 6 innings. He's not going to go over 6. He just isn't going to do it. So what we have here, 7, 8, 6, couple threes, and then a 7. So you're either going to get 3 or 4. You're going to get closer to 7. If I get a number like 5.5 on a prop, I will probably take that today. If they want 6.5, I'm passing on that, because 7's his highest in the last month. I can't do that. So 5.5, sure. On his opponents, you see Wicks 4.44, 1.48. It's hard to tell with him though, because he's doing 3 innings, then 6, then 4, then 4, then 4. It's hard. You just don't know what you're going to get with him. So this one's hard to tell. And then I'll look at his strikeouts: 7, 6, 5, 4, 2. Dude's going downhill hard. So we don't know what we're getting here. We're going to pass on his strikeout props. We will look at Gibson's strikeout props. Looking at the data again, we don't see any real advantages offensively. St. Louis is batting better, but they can't get dudes across home plate, which is what matters most. So the fact that it is a pick 'em, that makes sense. I'm not going to play the side. I'm not going to play a total. We're going to look at Gibson K props and move on to the next game. All right, next up, we got the rivalry. We got the Yankees and the Red Sox. Gill with a 204 against Bello with a 4.78. Looking at the betting side, we see that the Yankees are pretty decently favored on the road. 9.5 the total with some juice on that under. Looking at the data, Yankees on a 1-game losing streak, Boston 2-game win streak, 40.4 nerfy, not worth looking at. Both teams offensively are on fire. 8-6 on runs per game for second and fourth in their last 3. 248 for the Yankees in their last 3, batting for 11th. Meanwhile, Boston's smooth 323 as a team in their last 3. Absolutely crushing the baseballs. 7 strikeouts versus 18th. Not really looking at strikeouts. We want the strikeouts to be in the bottom 10, 20 or higher. We look at strikeout props around here. So we're not going to look at those. So looking at the pitching side, Gill's going out there for New York. We see his last 2 games. He had 3 great games against Minnesota, 1 hit over 6, 1-0, 1-0. His last game for 3 is his worst game in a month. So he's either going to be due to get crushed by someone, or he's just that good of a pitcher. That's just all it is to him, because we see what we get with him. Now, given his games were, let's look at his opponents: Tampa Bay, the White Sox, Seattle, who leads the majors in strikeouts, Angels, who were struggling, Minnesota, who, I give it, Minnesota's on fire now, but a week before they were in the middle of the road according to stats, and the Dodgers got to him a little bit. So we'll see what happens. His opponent, Bello, on the other hand, got rocked against the White Sox of all teams last game. Now he gets to go up against the Yankees. Have fun with that. Better, stronger bats. Gave up 4 runs to Detroit. 3-3, 5-2. So if you look at just statistic and pitching, you have a clear pitching advantage for New York. It's just going on statistics, because these stats are not good compared to Gill's stats, which you can see are way better stats. So looking here, we got a pitching matchup here. Over here, I would say offensively, you would lean Boston over here because of how good the numbers are. The runs are almost equal. The batting average, yeah, it's only 9 spots apart, but look, it is almost, what, 90 points differential? That's a big difference in batting average. So with the line being the way it is, I don't see, unless they're just going to tee off on Bello, then that's great. I can't take the Yankees in the spot. I just don't see it. It's a rivalry game. It's in Boston. That matters in this game. It's going to be hostile. We know this. We know how this series goes. I'm going to take the over 9.5 because of the fact that both offenses are doing so well, and we have Bello absolutely struggling offensively. If Boston can get to Gill and just say put up a 3 spot, maybe a 4 spot, because this will be the best offense they face at the time they face them, then sure, yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'll take over 9.5 in this one and move on to the next game. All right, next up, we got the Phillies and the Orioles. We got Suarez with a 181 against Bradish with a 262. Absolute beast pitching matchup we got today. Looking at the betting side, we see that the Orioles are slightly favored at home, 7.5, no juice either way. Looking at the data, 2-game losing streak Philly, 1-game losing for Baltimore. Both teams in the middle of the road when it comes to runs. 4.3 for Philly in their last 3 for 11th. Baltimore 3.7 for 14th, so no advantage there. 248 versus 221. That's an 8-spot difference, about 20 points. Slight advantage Philly in that one. Not much to really talk about though. 8.7 versus 7.3 strikeouts. Slight advantage Baltimore. So far offensively, I don't see much of an advantage worth putting money on in this one. Looking at the pitching, see if that tells us a different story. We have, let's start off with Suarez. 181, 0.85 whip. Beautiful, dirty, second and first, nasty numbers. Love to see that. 2-0-4-1-0-0, just crushing. Dude's a beast. Cy Young contention, obviously. Numbers are amazing. 10 strikeouts, 9. That's great. His counterpart, Bradish, 1 hit over 6 last game. Got a little roughed up against Tampa Bay the second time, but the first time they played Tampa Bay, 0-1-2-1. Dude was a beast outside of the first Tampa Bay game. So this game is weird because I don't see a clear, yes, Suarez is a beast, yes. These numbers, yeah, look at them. They're great numbers. But Bradish's numbers are great too. If you said pick one of these guys, hey, I'm stuck with the other one. I'm fine with the other one, no problem. And the fact on top of that, the data is pretty much close on this one. We have no advantage here. So in my opinion, in the statistical opinions, there is no advantage offensively. There's no real advantage on pitching. So the fact that it's close to a pick 'em, I mean, 135 is not that big of an advantage. I can see that happening, but I'm going to pass on the money line. We're going to pass on the total. We're going to pass on this entire game. Move on to the next one. All right, next up, we got Cleveland and Toronto. We got Allen with a 5.57 against Gossman with a 4.01. Betting markets have it. Blue Jays at home favored, 8.5 is total. Juice on that under. Looking at the data, both teams on a losing streak of 1, 68.2% nerfy. That's only because Toronto's here, and Toronto just is allergic to scoring runs in the first inning. They've only done it, I think they've done it twice now in the past like 35 games. Still, if that number's not over 70, I just can't really do it because I need confidence in that. And 68's close, it's not 70 though. And here we're a little conservative when it comes to our putting what we want money on. So 4.3 runs for Cleveland, 2.7 for Toronto. Advantage Cleveland, pretty decent. That one, almost a 2-run advantage. 252 batting versus 208. We have a 45-ish point advantage for Cleveland as well. And batting, 8.3 versus 6.7. Toronto has the advantage when it comes to the strikeouts. So neither team is in the bottom 10 of strikeouts, so we're not going to look at a prop in this one. We are going to look at the pitching though and see Logan Allen is the one going out for Cleveland. We see his last 2 games. Gave up 2, got rocked by Colorado, 3-0-0, and rocked by Detroit, but that was back early May. So he's had 2 games where he's been absolutely rocked for 7 earned in his last 6 starts. So that's not good. So looking at Gossman's numbers, dude pitched a gem last game, went a full complete 9 innings for 5 hits, 10 Ks, only walked 1 dude, no earned runs. It was Oakland, but still he did it. So you give him props where you get him. Before that game though, gave up 6 earned on 6 hits to Baltimore. So again, we're getting dudes that get rocked around here. So it's a little hard to judge this game. So looking at the data here, we see Toronto struggles a little offensively. They're in the bottom half of bottom 5 in batting average in the last 3 games. Really, in the past 2 weeks, they've been terrible batting. Toronto's bottom 8 in runs at 2.7. Cleveland's doing much better. They're top 10 in batting average, top 11 in runs. So we lean Cleveland in this one. The data is backing it up. The fact that Toronto's a moneyline favorite at home is kind of surprising with the stats and everything. So we are going to take Cleveland moneyline on the road. And we're also going to throw some on the over 8.5 because we do have 2 pitchers that have been prone to give up, pretty bad games. So we have, we take the over in this one in case one of the pitchers gets rocked again, which is very possible in this one. I don't see Gossman coming out and pitching another 9-inning complete game gem again. You don't typically see that back-to-back in pitchers. So over 8.5, Cleveland money line. Move on to the next one. Next up, we got San Diego at the New York Mets. We got Waldron with a 3.76 against Manaea with 4.3 ERA. Betting side has a pick 'em. Pick a team. It doesn't matter which one you want. They're the same. Over under 8.5. A little bit of juice on that under. Looking at the data, 3-game winning streak for Diego, 2-game winning streak for the Mets. 46% nerfy, not good enough. We pass both teams 7th in the last 3 games at 5 runs a game. No advantage here. San Diego betting 274 as a team in the last 3. They still on fire. They were first 2 weeks ago. They were second last week, and they're still in the top 5 because they're still batting great. They are trending down a little bit, but I mean, you're super high. You're going to come down some. You got to come back to earth eventually. The Mets are 19th at 221, so we have a clear advantage batting for San Diego in the averages, but they're tied in the offense. So overall, slight advantage San Diego offensively. 6.3 versus 6.7 strikeouts. Neither team striking out. No K props in this one. Looking at the pitchers, we got Waldron going out there. 3.76 with a 1-2-3 his last few games. 1-1, 0-2, 1-2. You see what we get. He doesn't give up much. Earlier in the season, yeah, he got rocked against Arizona, but he has settled down in his last few games. He's done much better recently. So that bodes well for him. Looking at Manaea, his last 2 games have not been good. He gave up 6 earned to Philly, 5 to Arizona, 2, 1, 3. His last 2 games have been awful. So we have a clear pitching advantage right now for San Diego. We go back, see the stats are pretty close with a slight advantage San Diego because of the batting. And then we go back to the odds and we see it's a pick 'em. I'm taking San Diego on the money line. Over under 8.5, we're going to pass on because we don't know what we're going to get out of these pitchers. And the fact that, I mean, this could go over, but then both pitchers could shut. We don't know. Just pass on that. So I'm going to take San Diego on the money line and move on to the next game. Next up, we got Tampa Bay and Atlanta. We got Lotto with a 3.63 against Sale with a 3.01. Betting markets have the Braves minus 210. Pretty heavy favorites at home. 8.5. No real juice either way in that one. Looking at the data, we have Tampa Bay is on a 1-game winning streak. Atlanta also on a 1-game winning streak. 43% nerfy, not worth taking. We're going to pass it on nerfy. 3.7 runs for Tampa in their last 3 games. Meanwhile, Atlanta 2.7 in their last 3 games. Advantage Tampa Bay. Atlanta's bottom 7. They're struggling to get runs. Tampa's middle of the road. 222 batting for Tampa for 18th. Atlanta 220. No difference, obviously. 8.3 versus 9. No real difference in strikeout props. So outside of the 1-run advantage for Tampa Bay, there's no real difference in their offense right now. I would say they're pretty much the same. So let's go head over to the pitching. We see Zach's going out there for him with a 3.63 with a 1.29. Gave up 3.3, 3.2, 4.2. That's a 3 average if you look at all the numbers in the last 6 games. So we're pretty sure he's going to give up 3 because it was the New York, Boston, Oakland, Baltimore. So he has faced in these things. New York at this time was a great offense. Boston, great. Oakland, not good. Not good at all. And then Baltimore has been hot their last 2 weeks as well. So he has faced some pretty hot offensives recently. Sale got rocked against Oakland, which is ironic. The one time I said, I'm taking Sale's K props. I don't care what the number is. And he only got 4. So that's betting. What can you do? But last game he bounced back, got 10 against Washington with only 5 hits and 2 earned. Before that, 1-0-0-0. Dude's a beast. Outside of the weird Oakland game, doesn't make sense. There's always anomalies that stand out when it comes to these statistics. So this might be one of those. So to me, Atlanta has the pitching advantage in this one. Looking at the data, and when I say advantage, I mean a slight advantage, nothing crazy. So we're based on numbers, we're pretty sure that Atlanta's going to give up at least 3 runs. Chris Sale's probably going to give up 1, maybe 2. So okay, we got a 1-run advantage here. Looking at the stats, you see there's no real advantage. Tampa Bay's better in runs, but outside of that, there's nothing really standing out here. I'm not looking at strikeout props. I'm not looking at over-unders. Picking a side, Braves 210's wild. That's a high number for me. That's really high. I can't do that. So to me, I'm going to back off. You can play if you want to, but I'm going to pass on this entire game. Next game. All right, next up, we got Detroit against Houston. Skubal, my probably favorite pitcher in the majors, with a 1.92 going up against Brown with a 5.58. Betting markets have it pretty much a pick 'em, slightly favored in the Astros. 7.5 is the total, a little bit of juice on that under. Looking at the data, 41.8% Nerfy. We're going to pass on that. 5.3 runs for Detroit in their last 3 for 6 best. They're trending up nicely. Houston, only 3 runs in their last 3 for 19th. They're trending down hard. 262 batting for Detroit in the last 3, 243 for Houston to put in at 14th, 20 points better for Detroit, but not too much of an advantage there. Just the runs are definitely an advantage. 8.7 strikeouts for 7.7. We're not really going to look at strikeout props for either of these. I love to take Skubal K props, but not when Houston's only striking out 7.7 for 12th. So we'll pass on that. But we will look at some stats though. Skubal 192.89. Nasty numbers. 1-1-0. He did get KC, got him a little bit a few games ago. 4-0-2. But outside of that, just nasty numbers overall. Just, terrible. Hunter Brown has a 5.58 with a 1.52. Great game for 6 innings. Struck out 7, only 2 hits before that. Gave up a few to Minnesota. 1-2-4-1. Milwaukee got him a little bit. So his numbers are pretty good. That 5.58 came way early in the season when he just got abused. 9, 5, 6. He's been great in his last few games. So that's why it's close to a pick 'em in this one, because he's doing pretty good. Looking at the data, it leans Detroit in this one. Skubal, in my opinion, is better than Brown. Brown's pitching great. I give him that. He's doing great, but I'm leaning Skubal on this one. The fact I get Detroit, I can get him at -105, probably plus at some other books. I'm going to take Detroit on the money line. We're going to pass on the over-under in this one because Detroit's offense is pretty hot when it comes to runs. Houston's at 3, so we're not really going to look at an over-under. So just Detroit money line and move on to the next game. All right, next up, we got Cincinnati and Milwaukee. We got Hunter Green with a 3.61 against Peralta with a 3.95. Betting markets have the Brewers favored at home. 7.5, no juice on that total. Looking at the data, neither team's on a really big streak to worry about. 55% Nerfy is a pass for us. 3.0 to 2.7 on the runs per game. Virtually the same. They're both bottom half. Batting average 181 for Cincy is almost dead last, and Milwaukee is 234 for middle of the pack at 15th. So slight advantage Milwaukee just from the batting side. Strikeout wise, Cincinnati is swinging at everything and missing. 11.7 for 29th and 9 for 22nd for Milwaukee. We will be looking at some Peralta strikeouts because of how poorly Cincinnati is swinging the bat right now. So let's go ahead and pop on over there. Peralta, we see 395 with a 1.13. We see his last few games 3, 7, 11 against the Cubs, 7, 6, 8. So we see what we get here. 3, 3, 1, 1. He got roughed up against Houston a little bit, and St. Louis gave it 3. So as long as he doesn't get rocked and only gets pulled after so many innings, he should be able to get us at least 5.5 strikeouts. If we can get that many, I'll take it, especially with the way Cincinnati is swinging. I'll see if I can get that. If it's 6.5, I'm going to pass. We're not trying to pay that much. So 11's beautiful. I'm not chasing some crazy number like that. We're not going to do no ladders for this guy at all. So, but he is pitching pretty good too. His opponent, Hunter Green, we see here 4, 5. Last few games haven't been the greatest. 1, 2, 2, 3. Decent games before, but his last 2 have been a little rough. Looking at the odds again, we see that the Brewers are favored in this one. Even though I am going to take Peralta on a strikeout prop, I'm not going to take a side in this one because the data is too close when it comes to offense. Pitching, even though I'm taking his props, I think the pitching matchup's pretty even in this one. Hunter Green got beat up a little bit his last couple games, but outside of that, he's been pretty good. I'm going to pass on that. We're going to pass on the total. We're just going to look at Peralta K props and move on to the next game. Next up, Oakland and Minnesota. We got Spence with a 3.68 against Simeon Woods Richardson with a 2.84. Looking at the betting side, Minnesota's pretty decently favored at home. 8.5 is total, a little bit of juice on that over. Looking at Zadata, 49.5% nervy is a pass. Oakland's on a 6-game losing streak. Minnesota has won 2. Oakland's getting 3 runs a game for 19th. They are up from their league worst in the past week and 2 weeks of 2.3 and 2.7. Minnesota's trend line is taking off like a rocket out of the chart. He's leaving the chart completely. 9 runs a game for first. They have been first for the past week now, just crushing the baseball. They're also batting 398 as a team in the last 3 games. They're almost batting 400 as a team. That is what it's wild enough for one player to do it, but when your whole damn lineup's batting 400, how can you stop that? It's really hard to do it. And now you're facing Oakland. Have fun. Oakland's middle of the road on batting at 228. They are striking out 11 times a game for 28. The trend line's off the chart in that one. Anytime it goes over 10, the line goes away, and you can see it's missing. So Minnesota is only striking out 5 times a game for second. So we have massive advantages for Minnesota in this one. And then we pop over to the pitching side. We see that Spence is pitching last 2 games, 2-4, 0-2. Yeah, not bad. He's not a bad pitcher. Let's be honest. These stats are not terrible. But he's facing the hottest offense in baseball right now. I can't see it going well for him statistically. So, and he could surprise. He could shut them. If he shuts Minnesota down, I mean, impressive. Good job. I will clap for that. Great. Wood Richardson, on the other hand, dude has been pretty good himself. 1-3-2-0-1. Yeah, Toronto got him for 5, but outside of that, yeah. So, but now he gets to face Oakland, and all their strikeouts are having. We will look at his strikeout prop a little bit here. We'll see that 6-6-4-1-2-2. He's not a strikeout dude. So unless you're going to give me a 3.5 or something crazy, like if one of the books want to offer that, I'll take it. If I can find that, I'll grab it. But anything 4.5, I don't think I could do it. So because he's not really a strikeout dude, even though Oakland is striking out everything, I can't do it. So looking at the picks, looking at the odds, looking at the data, I got to take Minnesota money line. I'm taking Minnesota run line as well on this one because of the data, the stats. So we got a pitching advantage when we got a massive offensive advantage. So we're taking those. We're not going to take a total. We are going to take Woods Richardson on his K props. If we can find a good number, we got to find. I want a 3.5. Somebody has it. I'm sure they do. If I got that, I'll get it. Outside of that, nothing else. Move on to the next game. Next up, we got the White Sox and the Diamondbacks. We got Flexen with a 5.06, Nelson with a 5.96. Looking at the betting side, we see that the Diamondbacks are decently favored at home as expected. 8.5 the total with some juice on that over. Data 49.4 Nerfy as a pass for us. Chicago's on a 1-game winning streak. We picked that yesterday. They beat Seattle. Good job, Data. You did your job. Arizona's on a 1-game win streak after just putting up was like 11 runs last night. So both teams on a win streak. Chicago 2.3 runs in their last 3 for 29th. Arizona 7.7 for 3rd. Big advantage Arizona in that one. Chicago's batting 200 as a team. Meanwhile, Arizona is 303. So a 100-point difference is massive advantage. Big advantage Arizona on both of these. 8.3 versus 5.7 strikeout wise. Advantage Arizona, but we're not looking at strikeout props because neither teams are in the bottom 5 or 10 in strikeouts. But we will look at the pitching, and Chicago sitting out Flexen his last 2 games. 5 innings 2, 5 innings 1, 2, 4, 7, 3. He's not bad. He's settled down a little bit his last few games. But before that, New York got him for a good bit. So he's not bad, but he's not amazing either. So Nelson, on the other hand, 5, 2, 4, 0, 8, 3. I mean, he's all over the place. We don't know what we're going to get with Nelson here. So we have pitchers that are up and down. Nelson's like a roller coaster. Flexen's just, he's not great. He's average. Average, maybe a little worse. So looking back at the data, we see Arizona's offense is en fuego, it is on fire. And the fact that we have an 8.5 total with some heavy juice on it, I can't take that with the fact that Chicago is 29th in runs and 27th in batting. But I am going to take Arizona money line. It will most likely also be part of a money line parlay piece. Might as well. When it Do I take him run line? I think this feels kind of like the same situation as the last game with Minnesota. I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Arizona run line as well and move on to the next game. All right, next up we got the Royals and the Dodgers. We got Reagans with a 308 against Stone with a 293. Looking at the betting side, we see that the Dodgers are decently favored at home. 8.5 total with some juice on that under. Data, we see 40.2% over here for the Nervy. We're going to pass on that. Dodgers on a 2-game losing streak. Casey got that win over New York yesterday. 3.3 runs a game for the last 3 for 16th. Dodgers still hot with 6 runs for 4th. Advantage Dodgers in runs. 250 to 268. Slight advantage Dodgers in batting average, but not much really. And then 4 versus 6.7. Neither team is striking out, so no strikeout props in this one. Looking at the pitching, we have Reagans going out there. 1-1-2-0-0, and then 7 against the Angels way back in over a month ago now. So he's been pitching great recently. It was against Oakland, Detroit, who has struggled, Minnesota, who was cold before they got hot now, San Diego. So it's been, the opponents haven't the best he's been great against, but he has been doing good. Stone, on the other hand, 2 running against New York, nothing against Colorado, nothing against the Mets, 4 against Arizona. So and only 1 against San Fran when San Fran was absolutely on fire last month. So I would say pitching matchup is pretty close, maybe slight advantage to Stone. So either way, it's not much of an advantage to talk about. Data-wise, we see the runs might be a little advantage for LA, with the batting average being a little bit of advantage. So we have a slight advantage overall for LA. I think in this one, 155 is pretty decent. I will take LA on the money line. I'm not going to run line it. I'm not going to total it. We're not going to K-prop it. So just LA money line, move on to the next game. All right, next up we got Texas and Seattle. We got Haney with a 407 against Castillo with a 335. Betting markets have the Mariners pretty decently favored at home. 7.5 total with some heavy juice on that under. Data, 46.6 Nerfy. It's a pass. Texas 2-game win streak. Seattle 1-game losing streak to the White Sox. 2.7 runs a game in the last 3 for Texas for 23rd. Same for Seattle. There's no advantage. They're both struggling offensively. 211 batting for Texas, 147 batting for Seattle. Seattle is the worst team in the majors in the last 3 games in batting, and they just played the White Sox. How is that a thing? So either way, that's wild. 5.3 strikeouts for Texas. Seattle, 12 strikeouts a game. They struck out 12 or 13 times just to Crochet yesterday. I think for the entire game, it was like 17 strikeouts. It was amazing how much they struck out yesterday. So we will be looking at some Haney strikeout props in this one. Otherwise, both offenses are terrible. Let's be honest. They trash, garbage, not doing great. So let's look at the pitching matchups. Haney, 3-0-0, 3-2-3. None of these games are against Seattle recently, so it doesn't matter. 5-7, sure. 1-1. But it was 2.1, 3.1, 3.2. Got 5 and 3.2. So we are going to take his prop. If we can get, with the way Seattle's striking out, I would probably even go 4.5. 4.5, maybe even 5.5. I might be a little risky in this one because I watched most of that Seattle White Sox game last night, and it was not good. They were swinging pitches in the dirt. It was wild. So we will take his K-prop for sure for this one. Otherwise, as a pitcher, not bad. 2-3-0-0-3. That's about what you want in a pitcher. Overall, less than a 3 runs given up in his last 2 games. Castillo, last game, Casey got him a little bit. Gave up 5 runs. Before that, LA, nothing. 2-2-2-2 outside. You know, he was consistent for 2, then had a nothing, then a 5. It still averages out to around a 2 statistically. So to me, I don't see much of an advantage in pitching. They're both pretty decent pitchers. The fact that the data says both teams are terrible offensively makes me lean the under, but 7, I hate taking unders of 7.5, especially with with professionals here. So we're going to lay off all of that. We're going to take Haney strikeout props and move on to the next game. All right, lastly, I got 3 games that I can't even really go over because it's early morning on Friday and they just haven't put out who both pitchers are going to be. So I'm going to quickly roll through all 3 of those combined right here. So Miami, Washington is the first one. We know Gore's going out there for Washington. Miami hasn't announced who's going out there yet. I don't even have odds at my book, but at some other books I'm seeing it looks like they're going to have Washington favored because of Gore. So it might be a bullpen game. To me, if I don't know who's pitching, I can't look at stats. I can't look at data. So I'm going to pass completely on this one. We might look at it later on. It just won't be in the video. We'll see who Miami announces as a pitcher, but for now, it's going to be a complete pass. The second one, let me go and scroll here and find it. It's going to be this one. It's going to be Pittsburgh and Colorado. We know Feltner's going out there for Colorado. Pittsburgh has yet to announce somebody. So again, I don't have any odds at my book, and most of the books don't have any odds in this one. So when I don't know who's going to pitch, I don't know I can't look at the stats. I can't look at the matchup. I look at trends. I can't get those here. Feltner, not good numbers. Let's be honest. The numbers aren't great. So, but either way, I can't take this one. This one's also going to be a pass. And for the third game, which is weird, having 3 games with undecided pitchers on a Friday morning. Wild. Lastly, it's the late night game. It's Angels and San Fran. Angels are sending out Anderson with a 2.63. San Fran has yet to announce a pitcher. It's odd to have 3 games where there's undecided. Usually I'm okay with 1, but even then I'll have odds. Even yesterday's games, I had 2, but there were odds for them. Today, 3 games, no odds, no pitchers. No one's announced it. I just refreshed on everywhere I could look. Nothing announced on pitchers. So we got these 3 games. These are all going to be passes. They might get added later throughout the day once I find out who's pitching and I look at the stats. Other than that, they're not going to be in this video. So all 3 are passes. That's it. All right, so 12 of the 15 games are broken down because 3 games haven't decided on pitchers, as you just saw. So I will try to update these 3 games throughout the day once they finally announce who they're going to do. I'll probably put the picks on Twitter. That's where I post a lot on Twitter out there. So if not, these won't obviously be in here. If I do post it, I'll let you know. Outside of that, drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't, as always, and we will see you tomorrow. Peace.